It is time for the final division in the NFL to give our record predictions for all four teams. It has been an 8 week journey. I don't think we missed a single week in there. Maybe one, actually, 1 week, but that's just our bye week. We're getting right back at it. And after this,
hmm
we got preseason stuff to talk about, among other things. Maybe even Olympics. Who knows?
Yeah, dude, it's gonna get wild. But yeah, the 1 week we missed was when I was moving to Texas
Yeah.
and you were up in New York getting a master's degree.
Yes.
So I think it was only for like our second week. Like we took a hiatus between week one and week two of this journey. But
Yeah,
here we
exactly.
are closing it
I
out.
know.
And guys, preseason starts in just like a little over a week here.
It's wildness. The time has really flown by, like to churn through basically 9 weeks. And
I know.
it's like, I don't know, it's just crazy to me, just crazy.
It
But
really is.
we're
It
going to
is.
launch right on in here with our NFC West predictions, obviously, the final division. Starting with the 49ers, I will let you tear through this one.
Dude, let's rip it. 49ers 12 and 5 this year. Feel pretty good about this. I thought that based on my previous picks throughout all the other weeks that I was a little bit too optimistic with the 49ers, but I don't think that's the case after going through and cross-referencing all of our other ones. 12 and 5 feels like exactly right to me for the 49ers. We've got week one here against the Jets, and I've got the Jets taking this one away from the 49ers. So they're going to lose their home opener, but that's not going to stop them from going on a tear for a good chunk of the season here. Week two, they're going to win against Minnesota. They're going to drop week three against the Rams. So the first little division rivalry matchup there, they're going to drop that one. But they're going to come back with an easy game against New England. They'll get a win there. And then they're also going to have a win here against Arizona. And so kind of an easy stretch of games, but they're still going to drop two of them. They got Minnesota, New England, and Arizona, and they're probably their weakest opponents of their entire season in the first five games. And then we get into a little bit more steep competition. They've got Seattle here. And Seattle, while I'm not very optimistic on them, I do think they're going to beat San Fran just because Seattle is such a hard place to play. Seattle always seems to have a significant home field advantage. And then you got a game after that against Kansas City. And I do think that the 49ers will get a win here, but of course, any game against the Chiefs is going to be a tough game. And then they're going to follow that up with a game against Dallas. And I've also got the 49ers winning this one, but man, that's kind of a tough stretch of games heading into their week nine bye. Coming back from their bye, they just go on an absolute tear, though, for the rest of the season here. They've got victories against Tampa Bay, a little revenge victory against Seattle. And then I think this will be a good game here, but they got a game against Green Bay. I think San Fran will take this one, but should be one of the best games in the second half of the season for them. Then they've got a game in Buffalo, which will also go to the 49ers. And then they've got Chicago. I think this should be a pretty easy win for San Fran. And closing out the season with a few more games, they got another division matchup against the Rams. They're going to win this one after dropping the first one. And then they head to Miami in week 16 here. They'll get a win. Miami doesn't normally play well once it's like past December, even if they're at home. And then they're going to close out the season. They're going to lose to Detroit. And they're also going to drop the last week of the season to Arizona because they're resting their starters. But those two games won't matter because they will have already acquired 12 wins.
I like it. I agree with a lot of that. I
hmm
did find myself in a bad spot though with the Niners. I was way too optimistic with them, kind of like how you were with what team was it last week? The Chargers. Yeah, the Chargers.
Yeah, way too
Yeah.
optimistic.
I pushed myself
Chargers.
into a corner here a little bit because there's like 3 games I have them winning
Mhm.
that now, like sequentially, I don't like that at all. But let's just dive right in. I do like them winning against the Jets in week one. It's at home, and that's Aaron Rodgers' first game back. Then they go on the road to Minnesota, one of the worst teams this year, get a win. Then they go to the Rams and they lose that. I really like the Rams this year, so I have no problem
Mhm.
giving them that one. Then they come back home and have 2 easy games against the Patriots and the Cardinals, both of which they will win. And like you said, Seattle's a tough place to play, so I have them dropping that game on the road. this is where it gets treacherous for me, even though Kansas City
Hmm.
and Dallas are both at home, which is just awesome if you're a San Fran fan and you go to games. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just incredible right there. But I could totally see them. They pretty much have to lose one of these games, in my opinion. And it might be Dallas's turn to finally beat the 49ers after like losing
Hmm.
3 or 4 straight to them. But I have them being both of them because that is what I decided when I was, a couple weeks younger. Then they go into their bye here, coming out of it. They go to Tampa. This is another game I could see them losing just because last year Tampa was kind of annihilated by them. And I don't know, it feels like a trap game. But then they're
Yeah.
back at home against Seattle. I'm gonna give them that one. And then this is the worst one for me in terms of just retrospectively looking back on my decision.
Hmm.
I would love to have them lose this game at Green Bay. It's going to be colder. Revenge game from last year
Yeah,
for
that's
Green
true.
Bay. Green Bay's going to be so hungry. But lo and behold, I have them winning it. So we're just going to have to stay consistent and power through here. And then for them to go on the road to Buffalo after that, even if they win that game, for them to then win on the road again at Buffalo is absurdity. But younger me thought, no problem. Easy for the Niners. So
I mean, it's
yeah,
hard
another
when you
win.
didn't have the full 49ers
I
schedule
know.
in front of you. Like we made all of these picks like in
I
separate
know.
occasions.
I
Like
should have thought about it
obviously.
better though, because this was reckless. And I felt like good about everything else and how that transpired, except the Niners. Like literally every other team,
Hmm.
like I felt good about, but this one,
Yeah.
not really. Anywho, then they're at home against the Bears, win. And then, see, I had to do this. I
Yeah.
have to have the Rams sweeping the 49ers here. So even though
Hmm.
Rams are on the road here, I have them winning it, which is not that crazy far-fetched, but for them to sweep the Niners, maybe, I don't know, that would be a little crazy, but I had to do it. San Fran at Miami, I like the Niners. Detroit at San Fran, another game where I was surprised that I did not take the Lions here.
Hmm.
But yeah, no one's getting revenge on the Niners from all the wrongdoings. The
Yeah.
Cowboys, no revenge. The Green Bay Packers, no revenge. Lions, nothing. But then going into the final week, they've already clinched a playoff spot. And so therefore, they go ahead. This doesn't even make sense because the way I have it, actually, they would be tied with the Rams. So if they won this last week and the Rams lost this last week, even though the Rams swept them, they technically would win the division. So they would still be incentivized to play their starters, but I have them losing. I had to on the road to the Cardinals, which is very like feasible. I like the Cardinals a little bit more than most this year,
Hmm.
but that gives them a record of 13-4. But I really don't love them winning the division this year. And so we'll get to that. But
Hmm.
13-4.
No, that feels, I mean, that feels reasonable. Like I know you said you were way too optimistic. I mean, they do have some really
Yeah.
tough games in there. I
I
mean, they
mean,
got Kansas City, Dallas, Buffalo, Green Bay.
it
Like
makes
those are
no
tough.
sense, dude. This is dumb because if this pans out the way I have it panning out, they will not lose a single game out of division.
Yeah.
All
I mean,
four losses will come from division rivals, which is just
that's
goofed.
true. I
Goofed.
mean, yeah. I mean, I guess the
There's
only
no
one I
way they
had,
don't lose an out of conference game
no, yeah,
or out
that's
of
fair. The only
division.
one that I had out of the division was Detroit, but I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
yeah, they're
I
they're bound to drop, you
you have
know.
them losing to the Jets though as well, which I like.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wait. Yeah, you're right. What am I missing here? I feel like we have another game. Oh,
No,
it's
you're good.
because you did the Rams
Yeah.
twice and I only did the Rams once.
Yeah,
I got it.
exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I still think the 49ers will be good. I still have them winning the division here. They do have quite a tough schedule though. Like we said in there, they're probably bound to lose a few more games than what we both
Yeah.
predicted here, but yeah, well, let's start tearing into the Rams now. I've got the Rams going 11-6 here. You've got them going 14-3. So our biggest differential here in this division. Now, starting off the season, we've got the Rams at Detroit, and I'm taking Detroit in this one. Feels like Detroit is just gonna want to, go nuts for their home opener, and they're gonna secure a victory. But Rams still a solid matchup for them. Then we've got the Rams facing the Cardinals. Feels like an easy win for the Rams. Then we're going to have the 49ers and Rams game. We already said we're going to take the Rams there. Rams are playing at home. Then we've got the Rams coming into Chicago. And this is going to be one of the Bears' losses this year. Bears are still going to be decent, but Rams will be better. So the Bears are going to drop this one to the Rams. Then we've got Green Bay at the Rams, and I'm going to take Green Bay in this one. I think this will be one of the best games of the season for the Rams right here. Green Bay is going to give them a nice matchup. Then they head into their bye, going to rest up a little bit after their double losses to the NFC North. And then they come back and they're going to face the Raiders and they're going to secure an easy win there. And they've also got Minnesota that they'll beat the Vikings as well. So kind of a decent little schedule after coming back from the bye, kind of ease them back into playing football a little bit. But then we're going to head on over to Seattle and they're going to drop this one to the Seahawks. Again, division rival. We know how those games go. Then we've got a game here against Miami. And even though Miami's coming into the Rams Stadium for this one, I'm taking Miami here. Picked that one like 5 weeks ago, and I honestly still like that pick. The Rams are going to have to lose, a few games here and there. Then we've got the Rams at New England, so that's an easy win for the Rams. Philadelphia at the Rams. If it was at home for the Eagles, I think I'd probably take them, but rolling with the Rams here. Then we've got the Rams in New Orleans, and I'm also going to take the Rams this time. And then we've got Buffalo at the Rams, and this one is going to be a close game, but I had to go Rams. I didn't like having to make that pick for my team, the Bills, a few weeks back, but it had to be done. Josh Allen is bound to drop some games to the talented teams. Then we've got a tough matchup for the Rams here in San Francisco, so we're going to give that one to the 49ers. Already talked about that. And to close out the season, their last loss of the year is going to be against the Jets. But of course, we know that I was very optimistic in predicting the Jets to be 15-2 this year. And then last two games are going to win both of them against their division rivals, Arizona and Seattle, despite the fact that it's the end of the season. They're not going to be resting their starters. In my scenario, they're still vying for the playoff spot, so they're going to be trying to win those games. So that brings them to 11-6 on the season.
I like it. I think that might be the same record they finished with this past year. Either that or
It's
10 and
possible.
7. Yeah, right
Yeah, enough
around
to
there.
secure a wild card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I am quite a bit more optimistic about the Rams, and I do feel good about me having them winning the division, but maybe like a
Hmm.
game or two less in terms of their
Yeah.
wins. I have them 14-3 right now. I like the revenge factor here with a lot of their games. I like the narrative where Detroit gets to win the playoffs last year where it's most meaningful, but the Rams, Matt
Hmm.
Stafford gets one back here in the regular season opener. So I have them winning that one, have them going on the road to Arizona, being them. I think Arizona will need a little bit of time to heat up. At home against the Niners, we obviously have to give both of those games to the Rams. We'll get to the second one in a bit. Rams at Bears, obviously Rams. Here's another one that I like the revenge factor of last year. Last year, the Rams probably would have beaten the Packers had Stafford been healthy. He wasn't. It was Brett Rippon. So therefore, another reason why Green Bay got so lucky to make the playoffs last year.
Hmm.
But yeah, they start off 5-0 going into the bye. Make that 6-0 at home against the Raiders. Make that 7-0 at home against the Vikings. Nice
Ooh,
easy stretch
7 and
coming
0
up.
for
Yeah.
them.
I
I
know
mean, that is an
7-0.
easy stretch of games when they come back from the bye, but 7 and
Yeah.
0 feels like a lot.
I do. I honestly, I don't mind that. Like, I like that. I think the Rams are going to be really good this year. I mean, Sean McVay is such a good coach, and I
Hmm.
really think they could be like a Super Bowl qualifying team this year. I don't think they'll win it, but I think, honestly, a Rams Bengals Super Bowl is not fully out of the picture. Like a rematch, that'd be so
Yeah.
sick.
But
Anyways, they
so
get
so
there.
is
What's
is
up?
Puka Nakua like the main sell for you on like the Rams, or like what's bringing you to the
No.
Rams that you're so hyped up about them this year
It's
specifically?
everything. It's everything. I mean, Sean McVay, Cooper
Hmm.
Kupp, Matt Stafford. I mean, what they were at the end of last year was really solid. I mean, they played everyone so hard their last half of the season. Honestly, if you look at their Super Bowl team, you look at this team, they've replenished where they lost over the last couple years, and it just doesn't feel like they will lose the division like a third year in a row now, because it would be 3 years after that Super Bowl win.
Right,
So
but I still got the 49ers who are still super elite, bro.
I would not be surprised if they make the playoffs, the Niners then make the playoffs wild card, but then they face in the playoffs and then the Niners beat them. And then maybe the Niners
Hmm.
go on to win the Super Bowl against the Bengals. Something along those lines. I could feel it. But anyways, they get their first loss at Seattle. Seattle again, tough place to play. Then at home against Miami, easy win. At the road on the road at New England, easy win. Again, revenge game against the Eagles from last year. I'm giving that one to the Rams. And then here's a revenge game for the Saints going the other way when the Rams kind of blew out the Saints. I'm going to give this one to New Orleans. They're at home. Then Buffalo at the Rams. Going to give that one to the Rams. The Rams at San Fran. Obviously, we have to give it to the Rams. I do have them losing to the Jets, though. Colder. It's going to be a frigid game. It's going to be nasty out. So I'm going
Yeah.
to take the Jets there, more accustomed to that. I do have them sweeping the Cardinals. So it's like the only sweep in the division beside, well, they
Hmm.
sweep, I guess, both the Rams and the Cardinals, which is crazy. But hey, I'm going to give them that win. I'm going to give them at home against Seattle here as well. So they win the division at 14-3, which is pretty good. The only like the fact that they are only losing to the Saints, Jets, and the Seahawks, which I mean that's crazy, but I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I like them winning the division this year. Like if I could maybe like kind of pare this down to like 13-4 and the Niners being like 12-5 or 11-6, like I would love that.
I like the picks. The record is fair. I just like the 7-0 is what like gets me. That just doesn't feel right for the Rams.
It could happen. I mean, the Eagles started like what 10-0 last year.
I mean, that was
Was it something
absurd
like
though.
that?
Yeah, they just fell apart once the playoffs hit,
Or
or
it
even
wasn't
I guess
quite
the
10 and
back
0.
half of the season. But
I think they started 6 or 7-0 and then they lost to the Jets. That was their first loss of the year.
I got you.
We'll
Well,
see.
yeah, I guess we will see. All right, time for the Seahawks here. Seahawks 5-12 this year. A little worse than average, quite a bit worse, honestly. They're one of the worst teams in the league, I guess. I'd say like bottom 25% with this
Wow.
record. Starting off home opener at Denver or facing Denver at home, and they're going to lose their home opener to Denver. So kind of sucks for Seattle that they start off that way, but they come back with a nice easy win here against New England. Then you got a game against Miami. Miami's going to eat some bird and they're gonna beat Seattle as well. Then you've got a game against Detroit that Seattle is also going to drop there. So you've got a couple run of the mill teams to start off the season, but then you've also got Miami and Detroit a little bit better competition to deal with. But then you got a nice easy game for the Seahawks here against the Giants. The Giants, if you guys remember, I had them going 1-16. So Seattle is the one team, or not the one team, but one of the teams that is, of course, going to get a victory over the Giants. Then we've got tough game against the 49ers, but they're going to win it. This is their biggest win of the whole season, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I'm going to give that one to the Seahawks because it's hard to play in their home stadium. Then we've got a game at Atlanta. I think Kirk will take this one home in another bird battle here. Then we've got Buffalo at Seattle. Had to give this one to the Bills. Like them a lot more than the Seahawks this year. And before the bye, week 9, you've got the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm actually giving this one to the Seahawks as well. Already talked about that a little bit earlier. Then you got the week 10 bye. Coming back from the bye, 49ers get the revenge on the Seahawks from earlier in the season, so they're going to drop that game there. Then you've got a game, Arizona at Seattle, and Seattle is going to win this one against a little division rivalry matchup here because they're at home. Going to give this one to Arizona, or going to give this one to Seattle. Then you've got a game against the Jets here, and going to take the Jets in that one. And then this is where you're going to give the game here to Arizona when Arizona's at home. Arizona's going to be also like not the greatest bottom 25%, but those home games against the division rivals, you got to give a little bit of leeway there. Closing out the season, you got the last few games here. Green Bay at Seattle, going to take Green Bay. They're a much better team all around. Minnesota at Seattle. I'm actually taking Minnesota. I only gave 3 wins to Minnesota this year, and this game was one of them. I still like that pick, honestly. Then we've got a game against Chicago. So Seahawks are just taking on 3 of the 4 NFC North teams here in the last 4 games of the season, but going to give this one to the Bears. So evidently they struggle with the NFC North because they drop all 4 games to to that division. And closing out the season, they got a game against the Rams here. They're going to lose that one as well. So tough stretch for Seattle after coming back from the bye. I've got them going like 4-5 before their bye, and only like 1-7 after the bye. So bringing them to 5-12, not gonna just basically building up draft capital at that point.
Yeah, I agree with your take on the Seahawks. I think that with Geno Smith, they've just been progressively getting worse since that first
Hmm.
year where they made the playoffs. He played really well. Last year wasn't horrible, but it wasn't quite good enough. I think they'll
Yeah.
just steadily go down until they end up replacing Geno.
Hmm.
But I do have them starting 2-0. I like them at home against Denver. I definitely like them on the road at New England. So they're 2-0.
Hmm.
Then home against the Dolphins, I think that's a loss. Now, Seattle has beaten Detroit 2 years in a row. I don't think it will be three. Detroit gets
Agreed.
one here at home. Then they're at home against the Giants. I do have the Giants beating them. I am higher on the Giants than most.
Wow.
They get one back against the San Fran Niners, like we talked about. On the road at Atlanta, it's a winnable game, but they don't win it. At home against Buffalo and at home against the Rams. They get one against the Rams, but not Buffalo. Just a tough stretch there of games. Going into the bye, they are 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, just like you, 4 and whatever 5 that comes out to
Yep.
be.
Hmm.
Then we have Seattle at the Niners. That's a loss. They're home against the Cardinals. That's a win. So they're hanging in there, kind of hovering around 500. And then things
Hmm.
really go south here. At
Yep.
the Jets, loss. Then immediately back to Arizona. That's a loss. Arizona gets them. Then at home against the Packers, not happening. Even if the weather's bad, the Packers know how to play in that. They do get one here against one of the worst teams in the NFC, and that's the Vikings. So there's a dub and their final one of the year. Then they're going on their own to Chicago and the Rams, and they get swept by both of them for a total record of 6-11. So slightly better than you.
Not bad. Yeah. We have almost every game the same here. It looks like there's only two different. Is that right? Could we only have two different?
So
I
the
feel like that.
Minnesota one is different.
Yeah.
And then there was the Giants one that was different and the Denver one. So three.
Oh, three different. Okay, I missed the Denver one. I was gonna say I don't think it's possible for us to only have two different, but
No,
only
yeah.
one game apart. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I was missing the Denver one. So yeah, Seattle's not gonna be great this year. Don't love their talent. They just don't have a whole lot going for them, but they'll get a couple sneaky wins in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, they'll be competitive in a lot of the games, but
Yeah.
won't be enough. New head coach as well, which will just
Hmm.
be make it a little harder to adjust.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Pete Carroll being gone. He's just like he was been
Yeah,
there for so many years.
I know.
So, definitely will be difficult for them to adapt to that. All right, closing it out here with the final, the 32nd of 32 teams here, the Arizona Cardinals, a team very fitting for the very last team to be discussed, a team that captures last place mentality in my eyes.
There's no way that they finished with the like almost just as bad record as they had last year. Like, there's no way to me.
I mean, they're not going to be like awful, but like they're going to be like bad. Like they're not going to be Carolina Panthers bad, but they're going to be like down there in the dumps, you know? Like normally like Chicago Bears kind of bad, you know?
I don't know, man. I like them honestly. I wish I could have given them more wins.
I mean, 7-10 is I don't know, that feels a little bit too much to me. Like you got the Panthers winning 7 games. Both of those feel like a lot.
I wish I could give the Cardinals more. Panthers, I think 7 is right or maybe a little generous, but there's just no way you can contain Kyler Murray for this long.
That's fair. So I think Minnesota is the team that you had being the worst one in the league because I think you only gave them 3 wins. Everyone else you gave more than that.
The Patriots, I think I only had winning 1 or 2 games.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. I forgot
Yeah.
about the Patriots. Oh, you're right. It was just
Hmm.
one. I think we both had it the Colts.
Colts, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Um
I mean, everyone
Colts and
gets a
then
little love.
Minnesota.
Yeah, everything's a little
Everyone
even. There's no like horrible like horseshit team besides the
except for New
Patriots.
England.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. All right. Arizona Cardinals. I've got them going 5-12 here. Gonna lose their first game against Buffalo. Should be a very, easy winnable game for Buffalo here. They're also gonna drop their next game to the Rams and their third game to Detroit. So a tough start to the season, 0-3 for them. But then they come back here a little bit, get a little win against the Washington Commanders, bringing their total to 1-3 on the season. But tough start to the season for them. I mean, then they got to go to San Fran. They're going to drop this game and Green Bay. So they're going to drop that. So just want to emphasize here the start of their season, they play the Bills, Rams, Lions, 49ers, and Packers. Like
That's a
those
tough
are
stretch.
five
Yeah.
five of their first six games. I mean, that's pretty brutal.
It is.
So not loving the start of the season for Arizona here, but they're gonna get a little bit more action later on. So we've got another game here, Chargers against Arizona, and I've got the Chargers winning this one and still think that the Chargers will win despite my overly optimistic picks in the last episode. Then we've got a game here against Miami, so I'm going to take Miami here as well. Chicago at Arizona. I actually like was tempted a little bit to like want to pick Arizona here. Like originally I felt like this one would be a lock for Chicago back in week 1, but that was
Mhm.
the Jake 7 weeks ago. I felt a little bit different when I was looking at these games. It felt to me like this was a game Arizona would end up swinging since it was at home, but had to keep it as is. Then you've got a game against the Jets here in week 10. They're going to drop this one as well. So they're only 1-9 heading into their week 11 bye. So real rocky road for them. Um, did I think I might have calculated my game total wrong here. I think I actually only have them going 4. Oh no, sorry. There's 2 games on the next page. All right, my bad.
Yeah.
All right. Week 12, Arizona at Seattle. We got this one going to Seattle as well. Already talked about that. And Arizona at Minnesota. Another win here for Minnesota. The second of their 3 wins here. We've talked about both of them today. Then you've got a game against the Seahawks again. This one we're giving to Arizona since they're at home. And you've got New England at Arizona, also giving this one to Arizona. And then Arizona at Carolina, and I'm giving that one to Arizona as well. So even though they start off super cold and go 1-9, I guess 1-11 through week 13. Then they get 3 wins here, get a little bit hot, but they cool off in the next week with a loss to the Rams. And then in their final week, they beat the 49ers. But at that point, it doesn't really matter. And again, they were not even in the running for the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair. 5-12. Feasible. I just feel like they're gonna be pretty competitive and sneak a couple more wins out of the schedule that I agree is super top heavy. Those first few games are brutal.
Hmm.
And so I do have them starting Arizona, Buffalo, loss. At home against the Rams, loss. At home against the Lions, 3 losses there. But
Yeah.
then at home against the Commanders, I think that's a pretty easy win. Then you're
Hmm.
at San Fran, at Green Bay, another tough little stretch here. I have them dropping both of those. But this is where things kind of pick up. They're at home against the Chargers. Chargers haven't put all the pieces together yet, so they win that one. They do drop it on the road to Miami, but that's a game I could really see them winning. Like I could totally see them winning that one. At home against the Bears, you wish you maybe have changed this one. I'm happy I
Hmm.
have it as a win for the Cardinals. Then they're at home against the Jets. That's just going to be a tough spot. It's just going to be a tough one to sneak out with Aaron Rodgers, hopefully
Yeah.
healthy.
Agreed.
But going into the bye, they got 3 wins, 3-10. Not great, but actually, no, it's like 3 and something like that. Whatever. No, it can't be 3-10. 3-7. There we go. Okay. Then
Yeah.
at Seattle, that's a loss. And then things really pick up for them toward the end of the season here. They're at Minnesota, win. At home against the Seahawks, win. At home against the Patriots, another win. Then they go to Carolina and they drop one here, but this is again a game I could definitely see them winning. Then they're at the Rams, another game. I mean, they could definitely split with the Rams too, but I do have them dropping this game. And then at home against the Niners, I am giving them a win there. So very up and down as the season went along for them, but they do end up 7-10, kind of similar to how the Bears season went
Hmm.
last year, where they struggled at the beginning, but then Justin Fields came back and they strung a bunch of wins together, but they still ended up missing the playoffs by, a few games.
Yeah, it's almost like the Chargers season that you like crafted the Cardinals to be
Yeah.
similar, and like that they lose all, not all, but most of
Yeah.
their games in the beginning and get most of their wins at the end here.
I would give them more wins in the beginning. Like the reason for the Chargers struggles early are different than the reasons I have for the
Yeah,
Cardinals struggles. I just think the Chargers will have difficulties early on, whereas the
figuring it
Cardinals just
out.
have a really hard like schedule
Right.
early on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, just Chargers, they got the new coach. They're still trying to
Yeah,
figure everything out. So that's causing them to
exactly.
have some team dynamic difficulty in the beginning of the season.
For sure. Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
guys. Well,
All
we're excited.
32 in the bag.
Yeah, we're excited to see how this plays out. We'll have to try and update it as the season goes along, see
Yeah.
how our preliminary picks did, but then of course we'll still be making our weekly picks and predictions, and we're liable to make some changes along the way as we receive new information about how teams are doing and get injury reports and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm very enthused to track this as the season goes along. So
Hmm.
there you guys have it. To recap our best bets from last week, I did end up sneaking out the NL, the American League All-Star game, whatever you want to call it, over 7.5 plus 100. It was 5-3 final score. So just barely squeaked it out. But yeah, no, the All-Star game is a tough game. The score runs in just because the pitchers are at their strongest when they only have to pitch like 1 or 2 innings. They can give them their best
Hmm.
stuff. The batters have no idea really what's coming to them. But that being said, I think it was a good game, all things considered, 5-3. So you got the over there. Some of the lines aren't out for tomorrow yet, which is kind of irksome as I would
Yeah.
like to add a few more bets than what I have here. But we're gonna rip off five here. Yankees money line minus 155. Not great value, but I'm very confident that they'll win that one. And it's a nationally televised game, so you could watch it if you would like. Baltimore at Miami. Nerfy, I like this because you have Suarez and the Marlins are finally calling back up Max Meyer. This is his stat line. He had 3 starts in April, in which he only
Ooh.
allowed a total of 4 earned runs over the course of 17 innings for a 2.12 ERA. So he was super dominant. And then they were like,
Hmm.
you know what? You're too good. Like, we don't want to fuck you up because we're so bad this year. Like, just go back and, we'll save you for later. It's like
Right.
stashing away like a fucking like churro because you don't want to have it now. You're just like, I'm gonna absolutely munch on this when I'm ready for it. And I guess the Marlins are ready for it now, even though they are nowhere close to playoff contention. Anyways, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, I like the Nerfy here. You got Lynn versus Skeens. And if I had some bigger gonads, I would take the Cardinals to win at plus 152, but just can't do it. San Fran, Dodgers, Nerfy. That is Hicks versus Knack. What a great pair of names. And then I'm going to take Milwaukee money line over the Cubs at plus 100. Anytime the Cubs are favored and you can get the opposing team, especially one of the best teams in the league, and
Hmm.
plus money, you do it. You do it every
Yeah.
single time.
I mean, that worked out for Phil. It worked out for Philadelphia for you like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
plan. I hope it works out again. But hey, if it doesn't, the Cubs win, and I guess I won't be that upset.
Hmm. Yeah, I like it. Some good bets there. Did you end up betting on the like legitimately betting on the All-Star game or no? Because I know you weren't super confident in the line since it soared
No,
under in the
I didn't
past
even like
years.
think about it. I honestly didn't even like
Yeah,
it didn't even occur to me like, oh, I should like bet this one.
I got you.
But
Well, I'm excited to see how these bets play out here.
yeah, no, hopefully can have some success. But yeah, that is all we have for you for this episode. We'll be back
Hmm.
for next week. Hopefully, we'll craft up some content, something to discuss.
Yeah, a little preseason discussion before the game. The first game is next week on Thursday, right?
I honestly have no idea, but that sounds right.
I think it's August 1st, and I think it's like the
That would make
Texans are
sense.
playing.
Ooh, your new home squad.
I know. It's yeah, dude. It's literally next week on Thursday, Texans and Bears. How fitting.
Dude, that is actually pretty awesome. We'll have to see
Yeah,
how that game goes. I hope they who do I guess there's no one really too exciting. I mean, they probably will let Caleb Williams go out for like a couple drives, but
for sure. They
I don't
they've
know.
got to
Yeah.
give their star a little appearance in his first game.
Yeah, get him like warmed up a little bit, but they probably won't overcook it so he doesn't get injured because that would just be
Agreed.
tragic.
Dude, could you imagine? It'd be like even worse than the Aaron Rodgers injury. Caleb
Yeah,
gets out on the
I
first
know.
play of the preseason game.
The Bears would be so fucked.
Oh, dude, they would be screwed. Yeah, we just would toss all of our picks out the window, have
Yeah.
to modify every single game against the Bears because Bears wouldn't be winning anything.
All right. Well, that's all for this week. We appreciate it as always, and we will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye now.